What's up, guys? It's Benny. Now that we know that Joe Biden was suffering through terminal cancer his entire residency at the White House, it's important to review the tape and to see who was using Biden's corpse for power and what they were saying so that they could drag his feeble, crippled body across the finish line and hopefully anoint Kamala Harris presidency when nature took its toll on Joe Biden. You know that was the plan. It's obvious that was the plan, and if it isn't obvious to you, then go ahead and watch this answer from Kamala Harris at the White House doing an interview while Joe Biden was still running for president in 2024, and her response tells you everything.
We were talking to some Democratic donors, and they have told us that should something befall President Biden and he is not able to run, that there would be a free-for-all for who would run as president.
Because Joe Biden is very much alive and running for re-election.
Ooh, God help you if Kamala Harris is the person who's sent out to defend you. Not only does she have the IQ of a microwaved potato, but also she kind of just like has a really bad poker face. She has a really bad face, period. But she, like a really bad poker face is what I'm talking about here. Meaning she gives away the game. Listen.
Joe Biden is very much alive and running for re-election.
She assures us that Joe Biden's alive. She doesn't say anything else, though. Just that he's alive. She doesn't say that, I don't know, he craps himself on live TV. And we're not trying to make fun of him. Never once have we celebrated the fact that Joe Biden has terminal cancer. We think it's horrendous. If everybody had listened to us, Joe Biden would have never been president because Joe Biden wasn't fit to be president. He was fit for a hospice care center. As we've said time and time again, the most humane thing to do for Joe Biden would have been to behave like the way that we behaved for the last 4 years, saying he's clearly unfit for the presidency. Again, I just can't believe it. It's like a fever dream watching these old clips. This is Joe Biden mid-interview. He was getting asked a question right here, live on TV, on MSNBC, and something clearly went wrong with his bowels. Again, not trying to make fun of him. It's just obvious that's what happened. And Joe Biden wiggles off screen, like in a panic. Joe Biden runs off stage. Live TV. What they did to this man, listen, what they did was inhumane. It's just a matter of fact. That's actually defending Joe Biden. That's not making fun of Joe Biden. That's like defending Joe Biden. Do you remember the time that Joe Biden just made up English words? He stopped speaking English, and Kamala Harris just stood beside him. Watch this.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was in the foothills of the Himalayas with Xi Jinping, traveling with him. I guess we traveled 17,000 miles when I was vice president. I don't know that for a fact. And we were sitting alone. I had an interpreter, and he had
it's actually completely evil, the banality of evil. Watch Kamala's face as Joe Biden, again, makes up a word. Look at her face. She knows what's happening. Kamala Harris needs to be subpoenaed, man. She needs to, I know she's taken plenty of subpoena in her career, but she needs to sincerely see the inside of a congressional hearing room and be asked about what she knew. You can see that she's clearly making fun of him. She knows what she's done. She knows the evil system that she's a part of here. She knows what's happening. She knows what the end result of all of this is. The plan is that nature takes his toll on Joe Biden, and that she becomes the first woman president by proxy. Look at that. Oh, it's just completely evil. We call it the banality of evil. Anyway, news is coming up now about how Kamala Harris reacted to being asked about this. You've already seen Kamala Harris wiggle on camera and say that Joe Biden's very much alive. And what she means by that is, watching this debate. And you watch this debate, and I'm just going to play one 10-second clip from this debate. And tell me if you think Joe Biden is very much alive.
The total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look,
We had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do is.
Trump in an incredibly restrained debate. Look at Joe Biden. Look at the look. Look at the hollow, blank, vacant expression on Joe Biden. Look at that. How sad that is. Incredibly sad. Like I'm not asking you to feel sorry for Joe Biden. He was clearly in on all of this, obviously. What I am saying is that like the people around him should also suffer. Joe Biden is suffering, and he's been taken. Joe Biden was clearly taken advantage of here. Don't feel sorry for him, but like there are other people that are culpable in all this is all I'm saying. Kamala Harris is top of the list. Jill Biden as well. Kamala says Biden had a slow start, but had a strong finish. When asked by Anderson Cooper what the hell happened. Now we've learned that Kamala Harris called Anderson Cooper an MFer after a pretty brutal interview. Let's go. Kamala Harris branded Anderson Cooper a mother effer after a tense interview, according to a new book. The former vice president had been grilled by anchor over Joe Biden's debate performance against Donald Trump last year. Cooper had questioned her over whether the president should step aside over his horrific showing, questioned his cognitive abilities. Directly afterwards, Harris told her aides, "This mother effer doesn't treat me like the damn vice president of the United States." Whew, we dodged a bullet. That's according to Anderson's CNN colleague Jake Tapper and his new book, Original Sin. Harris went on the defense for Biden in an interview with Cooper, who spoke to that Democrats were feeling a sense of panic with the train wreck of Joe Biden. She shot back that Donald Trump lied over and over again, as he's wont to do, describing that Joe Biden had a slow start. Cooper said, "You debated against Vice President Biden 4 years ago, and he was a very different person 4 years ago." That's certainly true, or is it not? It's amazing how flaccid and feeble these line of questionings are. This is what Democrats consider tough questioning. This is what Kamala Harris said. This mother effer doesn't treat me like the damn vice president of the United States. Kamala Harris has 99% staff turnover. She's apparently a horrific and abusive boss and a very nasty person, as Donald Trump has branded her, and it's true. Yeah, she's a real class act. Former Vice President Kamala Harris calls Anderson Cooper an MFer to colleagues. As much as I dislike Kamala, haven't we all wanted to call Anderson Cooper an MFer? Okay, well, all's fair, right? Love and war. All right. Well, here is the offending interview, shall we? How about just go with it, right? Let's go ahead and play. I'll play the interview, and here's what sent Kamala Harris into a blind rage, a very, very weak and, again, flaccid line of questioning that ever so slightly tapped the fourth wall of like, we all know this guy clearly has dementia and has some type of terminal illness, right? Yeah. Here it is.
John King has described a panic inside the Democratic Party right now because of President Biden's performance in tonight's debate. He's been hearing from Democratic lawmakers and others around the country. Some within your own party are wondering if President Biden should even step aside. What do you say to that?
Listen, first of all, what we saw tonight is the president making a very clear contrast with Donald Trump on all of the issues that matter to the American people. Yes, there was a slow start, but it was a strong finish. And what became very clear through the course of the night is that Joe Biden is fighting on behalf of the American people, on substance, on policy, on performance. Joe Biden is extraordinarily strong.
And but I'm sorry, on substance and policy and performance tonight, I mean, the president's performance tonight clearly was disappointing for his supporters. CNN is reporting Democratic lawmakers watching the debate were worried about the president's performance. One said it was a disaster. Another called it a train wreck. Those are Democrats especially worried that Biden did not punch back on Trump's lies.
Listen, people can debate on style points, but ultimately this election and who is the president of the United States has to be about substance. And the contrast is clear. Look at what happened during the course of the debate. Donald Trump lied over and over and over again, as he is wont to do. He would not disavow what happened on January 6th. He would not give a clear answer on whether he would stand by the election results this November. He went back and forth about where he stands on one of the most critical issues of freedom in America, which is the right of a woman to make decisions about their own body. He has been completely ambiguous and all over the place about where he stands on that issue, despite the fact that he hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade, and that's exactly what they did. And just 3 years ago, we commemorated the 2-year anniversary of Dobbs, wherein women across our country have been denied emergency health care,
all that may be true. All that may be true. But the President of the United States was not able to make that case to Donald Trump on the stage tonight. I mean, you debated against then Vice President Vice President Biden 4 years ago, and he was a very different person on the stage 4 years ago when you debated him. You must, I mean, that's certainly true, is it not?
Anderson, the point has to be performance in terms of what a president does. A president who incites an insurrection against the Capitol. No, but I got the point that you're making about a 1.5-hour debate tonight. I'm talking about 3.5 years of performance in work that has been historic.
But whether it be the man who we saw on the stage tonight, is that the person you see in meetings every day?
The person that you saw on the debate stage that has, for the last 3.5 years, up until today, performed in a way that has been about, whether it be in the Oval Office, negotiating bipartisan deals so that we have an infrastructure, a real infrastructure plan where we're putting trillions of dollars on the streets of America to upgrade our infrastructure. Whether it be the person I see in the Oval Office who is meeting with heads of the military and the intelligence community and in the Situation Room, ensuring the safety of America. The person I see in Joe Biden on the world stage, convening world leaders who often ask for his advice, most recently just during the G7 conference. So I'm not going to spend all night with you talking about the last 90 minutes when I've been watching the last 3.5 years of performance.
But this was a debate that your campaign wanted. You pushed for this debate at this moment. Obviously, I mean, you can't honestly say, I mean, can you say that you are not concerned at all having watched the president's performance tonight?
It was a slow start. That's obvious to everyone. I'm not going to debate that point.